Okay, and if you've watched my videos before, you know I like to use a filler at this stage. That light sand was just to sort of take off all the slivers, the splinters, knock out any high spots, any sharp edges and stuff like that. Now I'm always using this Woodwise wood patch. As you guessed it, I get it on Amazon as well. They actually only retail it in certain places and they don't sell to retail customers. So if you don't have a local retailer that carries it, then the only place actually to get it is Amazon. I will put a link in the description down below. I use ebony, or sometimes what they call mineral streak black. Occasionally I'll get it as a powder. Sometimes I get it as the pre-mixed stuff. It's a pretty simple deal to do. You know, anywhere that there's a hole, a crack, a check, a line, saw mark, we're just gonna flood the entire thing. Pay attention on the deeper ones. You'll put some in and then I'll come back afterwards after it's had a second to dry. I'll refill those back up, or even after I've sanded it the first time, and make sure those are flat. The whole objective here is to get any of the low line spots uniformly filled with something, so all the character that's showing up is going to be a uniform color, and it helps to level out the surface of your tabletop, especially with this barnwood. So whatever finish you're putting on afterwards goes on a little easier, especially if you're hand rubbing it, you're not running into the slivers like I just got when I was doing the last part of it. Sometimes I water it down. Today I'm going to start by not watering it down and start spreading it and see what happens. And if I feel like it's a bit too thick, then I'll throw it in an Oreo bucket, mix it up with some water, and keep on going. All right, the filler's dry. It's time to sand it down. I've got, again, the Makita BO6050J and 150 grit sandpaper. I'm going to go over the whole thing, keep my pad relatively flat to try flatten stuff out, but kind of get down in the grooves a little bit to give it sort of the maximum character, right? Like as I go over each area and I'm at a certain saw mark, I try to make sure that the saw mark is kind of defined by the wood around it and stuff like that. And that's really about it. Then we can blow it off and put some finish on top. Okay, it's time for some finish on this baby. As I did on the last project, the sofa table, I'm going to use Varathane interior satin polyurethane. And once again, you can get this stuff on Amazon or Home Depot or Lowe's or Home Hardware or Rona or wherever else you shop. I will put a link below. I've tried a number of their products. Most of them I do like. The rub-on polyurethane I didn't really like quite as much, but this stuff's great stuff. It's water-based. I like how it goes on. I like how it amplifies the saw marks and the character. And once again, I am going to brush it on, because I always sand in between anyways. And I like to see how the wood is accepting it. Some wood just likes to take a bit more. So I'll kind of go over this whole thing with just a kind of a quick coat and come back and see which areas or which boards are taking just a little bit more of the material. And I'll add a little bit until it looks like it's a pretty uniform coat. And I will let that dry. And then I will come back and sand and do that dance all over again. I'll try just basically get it all on in one area. And then I'll do some brush strokes across the whole area with the grain to try to level it out. This stuff does kind of self-level to a certain degree once you've laid it on. So now I'll kind of just go back and forth, and you can actually feel, like I can feel right now the areas that are basically more sticky, and then the ones that glide easier. The areas that are more sticky just don't have the wood's just soaking it up, so I'll add some more in those areas. Oh, what is that? There, now that's, oh, a little bit more. There, now that's just a nice, consistent glide. And that was enough for the first coat right there. Okay, now when this polyurethane goes on, you can see that it's a little bit milky, a little bit white. That's normal. And then it clears as it dries. But that is a good first coat on some beautiful wood for a pretty cool, a real cool desktop for Banff, Alberta. Okay, real quick, remember how I was showing you about using the track saw to trim everything after I left it long? Here's one of the reasons why, is I get really nice, straight, uniform cuts on this angle part, and my edging and nosing just matches up so nice. I mean, you can do it by, obviously, like I said, tracing it out and cutting them all individually, or even leaving them a little long and then using a trim router with a flush bit and do that. But I just put down the track, ran it across one time, and had that nice straight line, and my nosing just met right up, and now it just looks awesome. It's another reason why I love that track saw. All right, first couple coats are on. Really quick, little tutorial demo on how to sand in between layers. I use 400 grit. With the grain, I use my hand because I get to feel all the grooves and any little low spot. And I'll go over the entire thing nice and light, only trying to knock down any grain that was raised, any little extra piece that stood up, and then I blow that off and apply a new layer. And you see this white powder that kind of appears, that's just part of it, the pieces that I'm knocking off, and it's the dust from the polyurethane. If you sand too much, you go right back down to wood, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to just level out high marks and make stuff flat. And then when you go and put your next layer on, it goes and fills in those little gaps, those little holes, divots and grooves, and every successive layer of polyurethane keeps doing that until you've got a nice flat finish. That's sanding between layers. That's as hard as it has to be. We'll clean it off. I will put one more coat on. I won't waste your time and show you how I paint it back on again. You get the idea. And then we'll do a final sand on it, and then this one's done. All right, I've got as many coats as I want on this desktop. The very last thing that I do is a 600 grit sandpaper sand and a 1500 grit. It might be redundant or stupid, but I do it. It just knocks down the last bumps or anything that might be on there or might have got on it. That way I know, and I've rubbed my hand over the entire thing, that when it goes to the client, that when they go to get their hand up for the first time, I know what they're going to feel. There's no mystery at all. So pretty simple, pretty quick. 600 grit, I go with the grain, go over the entire board, grab onto the 1500, do the exact same thing. Okay, awesome. Now I will wipe that off, clean that off, blow it off, and we're ready to load it up and take it up with the rest of the stuff we're taking to Banff.